Made so much difference in the lives of two people, but it has.
Drop off a warm meal and get more than you expect. Volunteer at americaletsdolunch.org. Brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM. 915-544-5876. Or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch, Andrew J. Polk. We're in all of those places. Simple enough to say is to provide the availability of having the conversation about the things that affect us here in the borderland, because, well, on just a few of the top of the mind things I've got today, let's talk about us being just a little bit over a week out of the start of the that's the former medical marijuana problem, but now the total legalization of marijuana within the state of New Mexico, and most specifically, the, targeting, so to speak, of the Texas market that is very much probably going to come along with that. Some new reporting out this week that we will delve into, plus a few other local subjects as well. The whole real estate market going nuts, a little bit more national reporting on there, but some more information coming out about the Soto hotel. Spoiler alert, undetermined cause of the case is closed. We'll get a little bit further into that. Also, speaking about downtown, the new Children's Museum gets a name that you could have seen coming if you knew how to read the tea leaves, right? But also just a whole lot more, of course, your comments, calls, and all of that here. So a lot to get into today. Already got some people chiming in over here. John Browson on gas here, saying, gas, but also mainly on inflation, that according to the Federal Reserve, inflation will be with us for another 3 years. You want to talk about it, reading tea leaves, the whole plan of potential interest rate hikes. We saw that first 0.25% one happen a little bit earlier this month, and there's a possibility for 6 more such step increases. The debate before this most recent Fed Reserve meeting had been whether they would keep it at like 0.25% each time, maybe do as much as 0.5%, or even some of the, now in retrospect, a little bit crazier predictions, up to 0.75% or even a full percent at a time. Now, I as an economics minor, have some idea about the impacts of this, though I'm a little bit rusty on my actual study of that. Such jumps, there's not exactly every time there's been an economic downturn forsaged by, increase in gas prices or increases in interest rates, but all the ones that have come across have started with that, I think is an important point to point out here. But again, locally looking at, some economic development things, but one that we haven't talked about much, even though we're right on the cusp of it, the whole medical marijuana development that is very likely coming here. But starting with a couple of those local items here, the cause of the DeSoto hotel fire undetermined. That according to El Paso Fire Marshal, and there are news partners over at KFOX 14 that live streamed the remarks here a little bit before our program here today, that they did investigation as of that night, and the case is now considered closed with no cause determined. Now, this is a little bit different than some of the other. Okay, I hesitate to call this one exactly neglected, because the building was, to my understanding, occupied in some way or another. And, some of the previous instances of older and, in some cases, historic buildings being burned down within downtown El Paso over the last couple of decades, let's call it that, have usually been pretty clear. Remember, at least one case, there was evidence of large amounts of flammable materials being stored in not oft-used spaces, cardboard stuff in the attic kind of thing here, which made it pretty obvious. So it is interesting, even in this day and age, that there can't be a determination as to the cause here. But then again, an old building, a lot going into it. I think the real question for a lot of people is now, what's going to happen with the surrounding businesses and continued impacts on it? Because, of course, the hotel going to be closed, if not, hopefully not totally demolished, but I also am not going to be totally surprised at this point if that happens. I mean, the damage, the roof collapse, it's pretty extensive, and as much as there is demand for building space and a lack of materials, there's no way to deal with that set at this point that doesn't involve just a whole lot of extra stuff being needed. So it would not be too surprised if we see that, well, leveled before too long. Not my hope. Not what I want to happen, because we've had way too much of that within the downtown regions as it is. But yeah, I'm also a realist in some circumstances, and this one I could see that happening easily. So that's one of the things coming out right before our show here today, even as within the downtown area, some the official name released for the new El Paso Children's Museum. So as some go down, others come up here, reported on by again, our news partners over at KFOX 14, that La Nube, got to get my conjugations right here and such. La Nube, the Shape of Imagination, will be the name of the new El Paso Children's Museum and Science Center. Could have kind of seen that coming, because there was kind of a cloud-shaped motif being included within all of the drawings of it downtown here, expected to be open sometime next year. The announcement made of that name, including Mayor Oscar Leeser, the executive director, officials from the El Paso Community Foundation and such, making that announcement here. I mean, kind of a long-standing need. I remember going to Insight Science Museum myself back in the day, and it would have been kind of sad ever since we blew up that building. Okay, maybe that one didn't get totally blown up, but it was certainly adjacent to, having shared that parking lot with, of course, City Hall, that definitely got blown up. So, I mean, Insights exists in its own format still these days. I think the most way involvement you could see them, at least that I'm aware of, would be involving the dinosaur tracks. If you go out to around the base of Cristo Rey, they are involved with that, to my understanding. If there's something more, it's not come to my attention, but I'm, well, of course, willing to be proven wrong on this point. So the idea of having a downtown children's center, I mean, it's part of the whole trajectory we've seen coming up with downtown, of wanting to have more stuff there, more stuff to bring people to there. And there's other conversations that have come with this, but I am personally happy to see a new facility moving along to then be a little bit more children focused. Not exactly my demographic anymore, but hey, you got to at least account for these kind of things. Otherwise, you're ignoring the market that comes along with it here. John Browson also chiming in on the medical marijuana thing. New Mexico would rather create more young druggies rather than lobby Washington, D.C. for increased oil and gas production. I mean, they're taking their own. I doubt New Mexico would focus on that, because, among other things, New Mexico has taken its own stance on the oil and gas industry, and they're making their money, making their decisions off of it here. That's where a lot of the teacher pay discussion we have had has come from. But tell you what, we're coming up on the need for that first break here already. We'll get even further into this. Just want to mention those two downtown-centric news items right here at the top of the show, because, I mean, again, as you know, what goes up must come down, and sometimes vice versa. I'm still glad to see that there's movement happening downtown, even if that is frustrating when it comes to the DeSoto here. So let's go ahead and get queued up for that first break of the hour here. You are, of course, tuned into Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Coming in, we'll talk more about what some of the expectations are for that legalization that is coming April 1st here in New Mexico for marijuana. I said medical marijuana early on in the show, all marijuana, because sure, there has been a medical use program there in New Mexico. This is going to be recreational sales. And even further correct myself, it's already been legal to have the recreational use, but now for the out-of-state people to come and, well, get it, that's what's going to be changing. And so you can bet there's going to be a lot aimed, well, right here in the borderland and even other parts further reaches of Texas and beyond here. So go ahead and take that first break here. Come back after the break, talk more about that, and get to more of the comments here. Again, comments over on the social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Take some calls a little bit later in the program, but otherwise, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound at Reynolds, we're seeing some slowing. There's a police incident that's blocking the left lane and left shoulder. It's a minor backup there. Gateway Boulevard, northbound at Ellerthorpe. Accident reported, police arriving at the scene use Dyer exit. Downtown, there's an accident reported Kansas Street at Texas Avenue and an injury accident on Wren Avenue and Roanoke Drive. Use Hondo Pass or Dyer to get around it. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples has your remote workspace covered with functional furniture and organizational items curated by Staples Work From Home Style Squad. This week, save up to $100 on select chairs. Offer ends 3/26, limit 2, in-store only. Explore solutions for your remote workspace at Staples.
Anyone can get long COVID, even Caitlin, age 20.
I got COVID in November 2020. In January, I started having long-term problems. I was a varsity soccer player in high school, and now I get winded just from walking. I can't remember things. It's just unbearable.
Getting vaccinated against COVID-19 is the best way to prevent long COVID. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
MassMutual knows that your finances can be an uncomfortable conversation.
Mark, we should really talk about our money.
Yep, we really should.
Like we never talk about our savings.
No, we never talk about that. Or our assets.
Or our debt.
Yeah, we really should talk about our debt.
We need one of those financial plans.
One of those will make a difference.
We should talk about it.
We really should.
Talk to us about financial wellness today. Feel comfortable about tomorrow. MassMutual. Live me.
Hey, Mario and Courtney here. We know life is better together.
And Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to make life's moments amazing.
It's red carpet season. Smart Mouth's 24-hour power of fresh breath lets us know we won't be worried about bad breath.
So go to smartmouth.com/radio to save 20% or find it at your favorite store.
Remember, our favorite tip for up-close, better together moments starts with Smart Mouth at smartmouth.com/radio.
Just 2 rinses a day give you 24 hours of confidence.
It can be dangerously easy to steal your identity during tax season because so much sensitive info is all together.
Before we start the annual meeting of Sean's personal info, has anyone seen Social Security number?
Not me.
Nope.
Nuh-uh.
Oh, no. He's been stolen.
LifeLock by Norton makes it easy to help protect yourself. If you become a victim, we'll work to fix it. No one can monitor all transactions, but you can save up to 25% off your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Identity theft protection starts here.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. A lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
That's just one adoption story that started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to participate in the show, even before we open up those phone lines, as we do a little bit later in the program. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, where you can leave your comments. John Brazelton tuning in, chiming in, Flaco Jimenez, Robert Haynes dropping those likes as well. Appreciate it, because letting people know that we're out here is kind of useful to have that conversation going about the issues affecting us here in the borderland, besides some of the very, downtown even specific issues, talking about a little bit earlier. One that is probably going to affect not even the whole region, but you could even call it a border that we don't usually consider when we're talking about border issues here, but the Texas-New Mexico border, and potentially even beyond here, because as we sit here on March 23rd, we are just over a week out. As of Friday, will be a 1 week out from the start of the recreational sale of marijuana within New Mexico. Some interesting reporting going on that. Some positive, some negative, some hopeful, some pessimistic about how it'll actually work out, including some of the comments we've got here already, of course. But one interesting one that caught my eye from MJ Biz Daily, cannabis business info since 2011, because looking at the actual business side and expectations of it beyond the whole yay pot or no pot kind of thing, like getting down to the brass tacks of it is interesting, because their expectations, the headline here, New Mexico set to launch $400 million adult use marijuana market, likely to attract Texans. So, there are some projected sales ranges even coming out of it, putting it in the immediate hundreds of millions of dollars and then go towards $500 million over the next few years. So quite a lot of expectations coming along with it. And of course, so the technical situation, as we've talked about previously on this program, is that in New Mexico, technically use already legalized. That happened kind of on a rolling basis ever since the law was passed, about a year ago. right now that set up this whole time frame. So use, domestic growing, there's a limit on the amount of plants per household kind of thing. I believe it's 10 right now. So that is what is currently in place in New Mexico. But this is kind of being seen as the real test, the real floodgates being opened, because retail sales has already, I talked about a little while ago, gone up to Truth or Consequences recently, spent some time in the shops, like the hot springs, that kind of a thing, and saw quite a lot of vibrancy even just within their main area, and a lot of it's either explicitly or seemingly related to, well, marijuana sales, among other things, including things like glass pipe shops, some things that could potentially be dispensaries or shops selling related products. That was a little hard to tell, not open just yet, of course, because as we hit April, and yes, of course, just in time for 420, for those of you who like that joke out there, this will be happening. But yeah, sales expected to hit $400 million within 5 years for the New Mexico marijuana businesses, according to, again, MJ Biz Daily, and similar projections coming from some other publications looking at this, even if there's a little bit of a skepticism, shall we say, about its ability to fully perform there. Again, just looking at the supply, demand, and business implications at this point here. There's plenty of other legal ramifications that we'll get into here in just a second. But the Santa Fe New Mexican, their headline from a little bit earlier this week as well, critics question state's claim of 1 million cannabis plants ready for April 1st sales. This has been coming up more than a couple of times over the last year about expectations about what will actually be going on with the supply, because, well, demand is being taken for granted, I think, at this point. It's from most of the things I'm reading and that I'm seeing is that there's a full expectation that the kind of similar-ish boom that happened for just over state line of New Mexico into Colorado kind of communities. Again, there was a great story that we talked about some months ago at this point about the differences between the outskirts of Pueblo and Raton in New Mexico here, because they are kind of similar situations that we are now going to be having with New Mexico, but now it's going to be shifted a little bit. That is, we're not going to be having the state line down here. So it's just an interesting analysis bit to be done here. And whether or not it actually pans out, there's a lot of expectations that it will pan out. I don't think anyone is saying that they think it will fizzle at this point. Yeah, Raton and Trinidad, New Mexico. There it is. The stories including that, also from the Puente News Collective, focusing on how Trinidad, being one of the closest stops pretty much from Albuquerque or Santa Fe. I mean, it gets a little spidery with the web of streets and roads and highways up there, but also for people coming over from Kansas or even Oklahoma or the top panhandle of Texas, that would be one of the closer-ish stops. Anyway, so Trinidad had seen quite the boom coming out of this, while Raton, a similar-sized community that with previously similar-sized economic situations, kind of the old mining town with some other economic concerns in town, but that had been quite waning, depopulating, and seeing the difference right across the state line, making them think, okay, what are we missing out on? Part of probably the push that has seen the legalization come through here. I think that we will now fully see probably a similar kind of situation, though, of course, the scales of community, I mean, they're on the order of tens of thousands at most here, and we're talking 100,000 people in Las Cruces and more than that, of course, in Doñana County, and the 800,000 plus we got in El Paso County. So quite the scale difference, even just within here in the borderland. But I mean, we're going to be surrounded on two sides by legalized marijuana. If you go west or north, you're going to run into it. So fully expect that we will see some probably interesting development. Haven't noticed anything just yet, but once you get out into the Chaparral area, and then of course the Sunland Park, Santa Teresa area, full expectation of some interesting situations coming out of it. I mean, we got both people traveling to there. They can't exactly stop you crossing state lines to make your own purchasing decisions, but there's been a little bit of back and forth on, well, just in El Paso proper, city of El Paso proper, on how this is going to be done. Some early conversations and some debating when it comes to law enforcement agencies on how they will go about this, because, and there's further legal implications, just a sec here, but just even within local law enforcement about, okay, are they going to then be stopping people coming back across the border? How will they be testing? And compassionate use. I mean, there's a lot of, not compassionate use, but the stop and cite method coming out of this. I mean, there's been a lot of groundwork laid so far. John Brown's going to bring up a fierce competition between Old Mexico and New Mexico for marijuana sales starting very soon. I don't know exactly if that will happen because the cartels, if anything, have been more than happy to switch to more lucrative products here. And also, make no mistake, the reason New Mexico put these laws into place, at least fiscally speaking, there's a lot of other analysis to be done, is based on the tax base and the revenues expected to come from it. Kind of what you're talking about with the oil field situation there. So I wouldn't necessarily think that there's going to be competition so much as a continuing gray/black market, because the taxes, I mean, people were running cigarettes, even though those are strictly speaking legal, or even, rum runners, that kind of thing. That does still exist. There's a kind of goofy set of, is it Discovery Channel or History Channel? I don't remember which specific outlet does it, but that kind of glamorizes the idea, even though it cannot possibly be the way. I mean, it's reality TV. Nothing is real when you really look at it that way. But the idea of modern moonshiners, that kind of a thing, very much still possible along with this. So if this is going to be expected to be a magic wand waved and all of the marijuana problems are solved, we can focus on other drugs, probably not, because the taxes are implicit within all of this. Literally, I mean, if there wasn't that, I would have very much doubted this would have passed at the state level, because how else do you kind of justify this to your constituents if you don't? So I fully expect that there will still be smuggling, there will still be importation, there will still be people even just trying to bootleg it, even if they are, taking it to otherwise legalized resources and outlets for it. Still probably going to try to be, tax evasion is very much alive and well in these days. That much is for dang sure. So whether or not there's actually going to be that kind of a competition, or whether the cartels will say, it's not even worth it anymore, we'll move on, or try to get their money's worth out of other ways, we'll see. I mean, the whole marijuana business, because you mentioned bring your guns there, do not bring a firearm to a medical or any kind of dispensary, medical or otherwise, because they tend to have pretty robust security on their own, because another wrinkle of this is, of course, that, marijuana is still a schedule prohibited substance, meaning that it is still federally illegal. So most banks, any banks, I'm not aware of a bank that is able to and still remain its status as a business deal with the money coming out of this, which means that there's a whole lot of cash being moved. And that means that there's a lot of, they can't put it anywhere. They literally more or less have to lock it up. And that has attracted, the potential anyway, for unscrupulous activities. And so the security tends to be pretty tight, kind of maybe similarities between what you'll see on some of the Billionaires Row in Manhattan with like the Givenchy or Bulgari stores versus, what's going to be your mom and pop dispensary that is then armed to the teeth, because they kind of have to be. So do not, unless otherwise notified and you ask the place, would highly recommend not bringing a firearm to a dispensary. You're probably going to have a bad time. But okay, we're getting to some of the legal ramifications that come out of this. So again, the way that a local law enforcement will deal with it, not totally clear just yet. A lot of kind of the background stuff coming out of it about, okay, how will we deal with it? What kind of policies will we put forth? I mean, the whole cite and release has been in place since the actually before. 2020 was when it actually came into place here, which means that for low-level possession, it will not be an arrest and a booking and all of that. It's still illegal, but more on the order of a traffic ticket, though it has still pretty small amounts, not exactly on the same kind of levels as the amounts being talked about when it comes to New Mexico's ability to possess, but we're talking about less than 2 ounces, or being for a Class B misdemeanor or a Class A misdemeanor being 2 to 4 ounces. So kind of in line with the amount of possession still being considered legal when it comes to New Mexico's side. But one last legal wrinkle. Tell you what, we'll have to get after that after the break here, because, again, the whole federal status of this still very much an important point to be made here. So let's get to that here after the break here. You're, of course, tuned into Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. We'll get to that detail, why our region is just so uniquely situated to have some bad times, if not handled lately. I mean, there's a whole list of people out there who have dealt with similar issues, so we'll get to that more after this break. Here at Talk El Paso, here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. The El Paso Children's Museum and Science Center was officially named La Nube today. That announcement was made this morning. The museum and center is a project by the El Paso Community Foundation and the city of El Paso. La Nube means the cloud. The museum's director says the museum's goal is to spark children's imagination. Standing 4 stories tall in downtown El Paso, the museum is expected to open early next year. The El Paso Fire Marshal says it was unable to determine what caused a fire that destroyed the Soto Hotel last month. That fire was examined and the evidence was inspected the night of the fire in downtown El Paso, but the cause was undetermined. The El Paso Fire Marshal says it has closed the case. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Severe Weather Center. This is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. I hope you enjoyed this last day of somewhat cooler weather because we're on tap for some pretty warm temperatures. High pressure will be the reason for that through the rest of this week and into the weekend, taking us to possible record warmth over the weekend before our next weather maker arrives to cool things down, bring more wind, and possibly some rain.
This report is sponsored by Gila River Hotels and Casinos.
Experience bigger, bolder, and better at Phoenix, Arizona's newest resort with new guest rooms, suites, pools, and amenities. Taste the here and now at our new rooftop restaurant and lounge. It's time to own your moment, so you do you. For more information, visit playathila.com.
Beautiful, top quality, long-lasting dental implants as low as $19.95 at 1995implants.com. The El Paso Dental Office, where implants are affordable. Other places charge $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, up to $6,000 per tooth. Please do not pay that much. Please do come to 1995implants.com, where our price is much lower, as low as $1,995 per tooth, including the implant, abutment, and crown, which many other places charge extra for. Plus, at 1995implants.com, we also offer a free consultation, free standard x-rays, and very convenient payment options. Now's the time to get rid of your cracked teeth, missing teeth, or loose, old, wobbly dentures and get the beautiful new smile that you want at a very affordable price. 1995implants.com. For more information, see our website, 1995implants.com. That's 1995implants.com. Se habla español.
Struggling with CPAP? Now there's Inspire, the only FDA-approved obstructive sleep apnea treatment that works inside the body to treat the root cause of sleep apnea with just the click of a button. No mask, no hose, just sleep. Visit InspireSleep.com to learn more.
Real credit card questions require real people. Someone who understands your issues and works to resolve them with you. That's why Discover offers helpful, U.S.-based representatives. Available 24/7. Discover. Exceptionally common sense. This report is sponsored by Discover.
Traffic's bad enough without Mother Nature adding to your headache. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
This message is for all of you sitting in the passenger seat. And apologies if it gets a little uncomfortable, but how does it feel to be at the mercy of someone who thinks a random text is more important than your life? Someone who takes their eyes off the road while speeding along in a 3-ton hunk of steel. Freaky, right? Well, why not just ask them to stop? Or better yet, volunteer to text for them. It might be a little awkward, but believe me, you'll live.
Learn more at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in over on the social media. Calvin Williams, John Brazelton, and more tuning in, chiming in, Flacco Jimenez, Robert Haynes, and more, delving a little bit into the impending start of the New Mexico legalized marijuana. But of course, our region, even beyond being not quite surrounded, though, depending on what the hell heck, old Mexico does, maybe on 3 sides by legalized marijuana, creating just probably a whole lot of fun at the state and international boundaries. But we also got those peculiarities of our geography. The whole 50-mile or so corridor that the Border Patrol has, or is it 100 miles? The whole corridor that Border Patrol has increased jurisdiction within the United States is the reason we have those. Well, you go almost any direction out of El Paso and head more than that 50 or 100 miles away from the border, you'll run into those checkpoint stations. You got the one over in Sierra Blanca. You got the one as you head north along, well, I-10, I-25, both of those. You end up in them. So, yeah, anyway you go out of here besides south, you're running into those inland checkpoints. And more than a couple of people, I mean, there's whole lists out here. Just doing a search of famous people arrested for drugs in El Paso, you'll end up with umpteen lists of the different number of people who have been arrested in our area. Some, notable and expected ones like Willie Nelson and Snoop Dogg, Wiz Khalifa. Arnie Hammer was one I was reminded of here. So people, and of course Johnny Cash back in the day. I believe that was technically at the airport, but it's always worth a mention here. So this hasn't exactly been a non-issue in our area as it is, particularly when you end up in those federal checkpoints, because, and this is the part that seemed to escape people. I even had questions when I brought it up, being like, don't forget this is coming, and something we'll probably talk about coming up. They said, okay, but why would it be an issue if you're moving within a state where it's legal? Because of the federal checkpoints. Again, still a Schedule, is it 2 or 1? It's a high schedule substance in the United States, and that has not changed. I mean, at the step, on the whim of the Department of Justice, you could end up having crackdowns on anyone that has listed their business information could find themselves getting, raided by the DEA if so decided. It just happens to be that most administrations, since the legalization has begun, and frankly, I mean, all administrations haven't taken major action against it, even if there have been certain officials within administrations and cabinet members who have made their statements along the lines of it being evil or bad or et cetera, since the legalization wave began on this whole state-by-state basis. But otherwise, it's still federally legal. You can't do it. You can't have it. So crossing state lines, going to have a bad time. Going through federal checkpoints, flying with it, going to have just such a bad time. So that still remains the factor here. So I almost wonder if this is going to be perceived as more or less an island in our region here when we talk about the, just southern New Mexico here in general, going to be kind of cut off from the rest of it. That's not really something that's been much investigated, but it's a reasonable question because, sure, it could come south, but you can't exactly take it north. Again, you got a nice business with that slammed on the side of it saying, oh, yeah, no, I'm just transporting some stuff up to the dispensary up north. Have fun in prison. That's the best I can say is going to happen to you. So it almost makes me wonder, as there are questions like the Santa Fe New Mexican questioning if there will be the 1 million cannabis plants ready for those April 1st sales or not. There's been some expectations along the route that there was nowhere near on track what was going to be needed for that anticipated demand, or, again, has been put by other outlets that expected more than $100 million worth of sales in just this first year, which would be kind of surprising. But, I mean, they're really focusing on the Texas market. That's all that is going to really be the major part. I mean, within New Mexico, sure, but people are able to grow their own. Looked it up here real quick from the state of New Mexico here. And again, we were kind of on the same order of magnitude anyway when it came to the possession levels. Adults up to 2 ounces of cannabis is what's legal to possess, purchase, and give other adults. Though it gets a little bit wild beyond that, up to 16 grams of concentrated marijuana or 800 milligrams of edible cannabis. So that's an interesting wrinkle coming from there. I mean, the ways that people make this stuff, I've seen a couple of videos. It gets a little wild, so we'll probably see a booming market within New Mexico and probably seeping over into this area. But that seepage, could probably pick a better term for that, but that crossover into this area is going to be the part that is really going to be at odds here. Among other things, even when Texas has technically had some movement towards a either industrial cannabis or hemp, I guess would be the more appropriate legal term to use there, and some compassionate use, there have been issues because at certain points within even just the last couple of years, Texas was literally legally unable to distinguish between any of these categories. So industrial hemp, again, the correct term to use there and the historic one to use, is the idea of anything that has essentially less than a 1% THC level within it. So real low grade stuff that sure, if you really wanted to, you could probably, wet your whistle with, but probably not going to be the stuff that you actually want to go through, since there's, more commonly out there, to my understanding, we're looking at double-digit percentives as kind of the norm these days. So if you really want to go for ditchweed, so to speak, sure, you can do that. But since there's so much more available out there, raises the question, why even bother? But at certain points, there has not even been the ability to sufficiently test to that degree of accuracy within the state of Texas to be able to figure out, okay, does this qualify for what our own state laws is or not? And that has been part of the problem, and again, part more of the legal framework that has been getting put into place here in El Paso. Some contracts that have been getting debated at the city council level of, can they contract with the labs that may have the setup to be able to, again, test to that degree of accuracy. But it's been an issue, and whether or not there's still the availability or whether the state may have to set up their own lab for it has been kind of an ongoing one with all of this. So the whole state line focus and crossover, because you can bet your buns that anyone worth their salt in the marketing business is going to, if they find themselves within the cannabis industry, look at this whole ripe fertile market that literally has no competition across the state line. And, well, they wouldn't be that competent professional that I'm describing here as a straw man if they wouldn't think, I wonder what we can do for those people. Heck, we've seen that with gambling for years in Texas. I remember seeing an ad for come and gamble with it was like a weird guy in a star logo suit kind of thing as a mascot for this place. It says, your nearest place to gamble, only 500 miles away from Dallas, that kind of a thing. Like, that has already been going on within the state of Texas. I think it was like technically an Oklahoma-based casino kind of thing. But seriously, they're willing to say that, no, you totally want to drive, at least minimum 5 hours to come and get to us, bud. Yeah, we got what you want. And in that case, it's just gambling. Come and give us your money and get maybe nothing in return is the whole scenario there. And in this case, again, the Colorado being the closest, best example that you can get, not exactly a overwhelming Main Street, though in some cases the dispensaries are on Main Street, so maybe that's not the best description. But certainly seeing a lot of activity with it. And again, just anecdotally for myself, anticipation of it does seem high within, smaller communities in New Mexico, and particularly those that feel they already have a draw, either because of what they offer as it is on their own area. Again, sure, the consequences being the best one I've seen too, but doing some driving along in the Sunland Park area, it does seem like there might be some coming along with that. No ads just yet because, again, the sales aren't there. And, there's already been a bit of a demand on this side. You drive along Mesa, Montana, any of those areas, the major corridors, and you see a ton of, the CBD, oils, those kind of things shopped already there, which is the closest it can get that exists in its own kind of legal gray zone. Even questions that have just come up with this office ourselves here, the idea of, okay, can that even be advertised because we are FCC licensed? And does then that, for coming on our air, put that in jeopardy, since it might be not exactly. The whole idea of those products is not supposed to be THC based, but immediately adjacent and otherwise extracted from the same plants raises questions. The answer seems to have come down, at least with major other outlets, that yes, it can be advertised, but how this is going to impact the borderland, it's kind of hard to put a pin into until it starts happening, because there's not a whole lot of information out there from the law enforcement agencies on how they're really going to deal with it. Are they going to treat it like the fireworks sales has been, just across state lines, and they're watching you as you leave the store, and if you start you're not having fired it all off, or in this case, still fired it all off before you cross the state line back, you're going to get busted? Or are they going to take more kind of a laissez-faire, hands-off approach with it? These are the reasonable questions that I don't really have any clarity on right now, so I think we've got to wait and see what happens here. Calvin Williams chiming in that those that want to go and buy it will do more reading and studying about the law and covers it than they have ever studied anything else in their lives. Another question, another good point, they're just waiting for insurance companies for demand a urine sample to check for drugs before paying out a claim. For the most part, okay, so I've been involved in a couple of not my fault, but damages to vehicles in the line of work here, so I've had to do my tests on them, and they have come up not as an issue because I don't partake in these kind of things. Not even sure if I'm really going to, because A, we live in a state where it isn't legal, and B, no particular draw for myself to these substances, even though I know plenty of people who have decided that, yeah, this is what they like to do. More speed to them, or, good luck to them with all of that, but just kind of not my way to spend an afternoon not doing anything. I could think of better ways to do it, but that's just me. We'll see if the demand's going to be there, because the projections are pretty robust. I mean, $150 million roughly industry turning on overnight is pretty significant, and then it reaching within a spitting distance of $500 million within just a few years. We're talking about some serious economic drivers potentially, if the projections are right, and if, well, law enforcement, federal policy doesn't get into it. So again, these are all the questions, and the rubber's going to start hitting the road in the next 2 weeks, or just over a week. So something we're going to keep an eye on, and hopefully more clarity coming out as we get closer to it here. So that's going to put us in reach of the next break here. Coming out of the break, we'll talk more about this and even some more of the other subjects here, such as, well, housing market woes and what's that meaning for people who may have leaped before they looked with housing market and purchases here. But we'll also go ahead and open up those phone lines as we do at this point during the show. So if you want to call in, the number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere. Even if you got questions about your ability to travel around the world, experience some of the flavors that you can get in far-off locations, even if you got wondering about if that can happen or not, the simple answer is that you can still get those flavors here locally without having to drive anywhere, delivered right to your door, because Enhanced Flavors is your local source of over 40 quality flavored olive oils, extra virgin olive oils, and balsamic vinegars, because they import their olive oils from around the world: Tunisia, Italy, Greece, and Spain, and of course all of their balsamic vinegars straight from the Modena province of Italy, as is required for that kind of a thing here. One of the ones I love the most is their dark balsamic vinegar Mediterranean blend, honey fig and pistachio. Goes great on a lot of things. Again, I dare you, even try it on ice cream, because once you're dealing with the quality stuff that you're getting from this kind of a supplier, it really opens up the possibilities and can really spice up your life. Specifically, you can find them online at enhancedflavors.com. That's enhanced with the D, flavors.com, or even out in the community, because they are doing the whole farmers markets. Everyone wants to get out and experience things. You can even try the samples for yourself. So find them at the Upper Valley Farmers Market this coming Sunday, the 27th. Again, that's in the Hobby Lobby parking lot near I-10 and Donovan Crossroads area. So just west of I-10 and Mesa there on the west side and the border of the Upper Valley. But again, find all the information on them, their varieties, and where you can find it at enhancedflavors.com. That's enhancedflavors.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Watch for an accident and crash on Gateway West on-ramp to the I-10 westbound just after Paisano before Chelsea. At Loop 375 Americas Avenue, a disabled truck is blocking the right shoulder. Gateway Boulevard westbound after Airway. Look for an injury accident that is slowing traffic there at Buffalo Soldier. I-10 westbound at Reynolds. Left lane is blocked from a police incident. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Churches. Stop by Churches for the high-flying flavor combination of our Texas tenders and shrimp meal today. It's butterfly shrimp alongside made from scratch Texas tenders, served spicy or original for $6. Churches, welcome to the great state of flavor. Offer valid at participating locations.
Hey El Paso, this is Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. We've extended Ram truck months, and deals are even bigger and better with 0% interest, more for your trade, huge savings, and a huge selection of new and certified pre-owned vehicles, with more arriving daily.
Buy now and get huge savings during Ram Truck Month at Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Save thousands in interest with 0 APR for 72 months on the all-new 2022 Jeep Wagoneer, full-size SUV with third-row seating. 2022 Ram trucks with 0 APR for 72 months. 0 down, 0 payments for 90 days. Upside down on your trade? We want it. Even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, we've partnered with even more aggressive lenders with great rates and terms for good credit, or even if your credit is less than perfect. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat, where buying your truck is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso, El Paso Strong. Excludes factory rebate at dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APRs, $13.89 per thousand finance. On select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
If you are covered by Medicare and Medicaid, then El Paso Health Plus Medicare Advantage Plan offers great supplemental benefits designed specifically for El Pasoans, such as $3,500 a year in dental benefits, $300 in vision, and a quarterly OTC card with $250 to spend on health and wellness products. Plus, generous benefits for hearing, podiatry, home-delivered meals, and so much more. Plus, our new Get Fit benefit to keep you active and social. as well as our new Healthy Eats program. At El Paso Health Plus, we go the extra mile for our members because this is our home and our local knowledgeable staff is here to help you get more benefits, more services, more from your health plan. If you are covered by Medicare and Medicaid, call us 833-742-3125 or visit ephmedicare.com. El Paso Health Plus, your local Medicare Advantage plan.
Hey guys, it's Edge Martinez. My family's gathering in the kitchen. It's our favorite place to catch up. Keep germs out. I use Lysol on countertops, tables, and the fridge handle. Nothing kills more viruses on more surfaces than Lysol disinfectant spray. Lysol, what it takes to protect. Use as directed.
NexGard, a Foxalaner, is monthly flea and tick protection that's #1 vet recommended and #1 dog preferred. Use with caution in dogs with a history of seizures or neurologic disorders. Ask your vet or visit nextguardfordogs.com to learn more.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. A lot of ways to interact with the show. Of course, we got those phone lines open right now, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We're taking calls here, so if you're on the line there, stick around because we'll get to more of it here. Plus, a lot of comments over on the social media on some of the conceptions about what might be going into this whole marijuana legalization. We're on the cusp of here, again, at next Friday, April 1st. It is not a joke. It's going to be starting here in El Paso, or on the cusp of El Paso, I guess, surrounding El Paso, the best way to put it here, because even if it isn't in, like, Chaparral already, I would be very surprised if it doesn't pop up before too long here. Again, the route south for the material seems to be clear. The route north, I'm not going to expect a lot of dispensaries getting set up, at least not at any major scale, because they can't exactly take it north from here. Part of the issue. Anyway, a lot more to get into that. Let's get to those phone calls here. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Harry on the east side here with us right now. Harry, thanks for joining us.
Yes, Andrew, good afternoon, El Paso. Let me babble on just here for a few minutes. I was in Colorado 8 years ago, living there when they approved the marijuana. And if you want to hear ambiguous statements and misunderstandings and confusions that the local and the state law in Colorado was not able to handle, we had people that you could get stopped, of course, for DWI, but if you got stopped for pot, they didn't know how to handle it. The city council and the fathers up there went all through that. And on the west side of Colorado Springs, is Manitou Springs. It's kind of a world spot where people go to. And they open cannabis shops, things that used to be restaurants and clothing stores turned into pot stores. And what they did, cannabis, is there's several growths of it. It's like a plant, as you know. And they put it in jars, and you could go into the stores and you could look at the grade of it, and they would tell you, the growing process, and this weed was better than this weed, and etc. And where it got more confusing, that you could grow 4 plants in your backyard, and if you were ever found to have more than 4 plants, you could be summoned. And I thought that my neighbors across the street had 4 plants, and he was a stoner to begin with. So I thought that was kind of hilarious.
Okay.
And speaking of Pueblo, they allowed those folks to spend millions of dollars growing their farms down there, and then the feds raided them. The feds raided them shortly after the legalization, where they were allowed to release it. And then you had people coming in from Kansas, from Colorado, buying the marijuana. And when they went back into the Kansas, the state police were waiting for them.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, it was. Plus, Colorado Springs, they said, we're going to spend the first $7 million on pot tax we're going to repair all the roads. If you think the roads are bad here, you ought to see Colorado Springs and the potholes. They spent the money on something else. Again, the politicians lie to the local folks. So we're getting into a situation that I'm sure that all the questions have not been answered. It's going to be confusing. There's going to be people that, and also CNBC an hour ago said, put your money in cannabis. Load up, baby. Load up on the cannabis. And of course, load up on the Bitcoin, if you understand it. So, in the black market in California is going broke and under. And the taxes, Andrew, that they're taxing the people to start these projects are outrageous, absolutely outrageous. But anyway, I just wanted to run that by you, and we're going to be in for a load of problems, trust me, before it's over.
Oh, guaranteed that, because I mean, hindsight being 2020, and the law of unintended consequences very much alive and well here in 2022. So the amount of things that haven't been accounted for yet, I mean, you don't know what you don't know. And sure, there are some other programs in other states that may, hopefully some lessons have been learned from, but I mean, among other things, there's no roadside sobriety test when it comes to marijuana. So there's no ability to, breathalyze and determine, oh yeah, you're this % high. It's all about what does it seem like you are, and then maybe long-term testing. And even that still has legal questions about it here. So, I mean, any aspect of this, it's going to be quite the can of worms we're going to be cracking open here. Again, starting next Friday.
Oh, and hang on your hat, Andrew. That's all I can tell the good folks listening.
Absolutely, because it's probably going to get weirder before anything. That's the best rule I can tell you right now. Things are going to get weirder here. So thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it here. Franco Jimenez saying, wouldn't be surprised if you can buy marijuana plants in the garden section of Walmart. There are some growth and use provisions that are coming up here. Again, I'll say I'll be surprised if Walmart gets into this. Maybe a more state-based or even locally based grocery seller, because again, any business that deals in marijuana can't use banking, including, among other things, credit cards. So, I don't think Walmart was stepping into that. But, hey, who knows? Stranger things have also happened here. But we got to take that next break right now. So I know we got a couple calls in the line. We'll take some more calls coming out of this break here because, of course, that's what we do. We know that phone line open, 915-544-5876-544 KTSM. More comments, calls, and all of that coming out of this break in the top of the hour news here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
We got two crashes on the I-10 close to each other, one right after the airway exit, the other further west closer to Buffalo Soldier. Large delay with a backup as far back as McRae. An accident in I-10 westbound after Paisano on the on-ramp, the Gateway West on-ramp to the I-10 westbound. I-10 westbound at Reynolds, left lane blocked from a police incident there. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
You need to know what's going on.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
If you are covered by Medicare and Medicaid, then El Paso Health Plus Medicare Advantage Plan offers great supplemental benefits designed specifically for El Pasoans, such as $3,500 a year in dental benefits, $300 in vision, and a quarterly OTC card with $250 to spend on health and wellness products. Plus, generous benefits for hearing, podiatry, home-delivered meals, and so much more. Plus, our new Get Fit benefit to keep you active and social, as well as our new Healthy Eats program. At El Paso Health Plus, we go the extra mile for our members because this is our home and our local knowledgeable staff is here to help you get more benefits, more services, more from your health plan. If you are covered by Medicare and Medicaid, call us 833-742-3125 or visit ephmedicare.com. El Paso Health Plus, your local Medicare Advantage plan.
Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio. News on the hour and a half. KTSM. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Texas Governor Greg Abbott is getting another briefing on storm damage. He's talking with officials in Elgin, east of Austin, on Monday's EF2 twister, which destroyed or damaged dozens of homes. Meantime, Louisiana Governor John Bel Edwards spoke with the White House about a massive tornado that hit the New Orleans area. Former President George W. Bush is offering his condolences to the family of Madeleine Albright. The former U.S. Secretary of State passed away at the age of 84 from cancer. In a statement, Bush wrote of Albright's story as a young girl fleeing Nazis during the Second World War to becoming the first female Secretary of State in U.S. history under President Bill Clinton. The White House COVID response coordinator says funds will be needed from Congress to provide free boosters to Americans. Jeff Zients made these comments during a White House COVID-19 briefing.
So we have enough inventory of vaccines to support possible fourth doses this spring. However, if the science shows that fourth doses are needed for the general population later this year, we will not have the supply necessary.
A member of the Senate Judiciary Committee says this is the one time America can see where Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson stands on issues. Tennessee Republican Marsha Blackburn said Jackson comes from the left side of the political spectrum. Blackburn said the tone of this hearing is much different than those of current Justices Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett. New home sales are down for a second consecutive month.
A report from the Census Bureau and the Department of Housing and Urban Development showed the average new price jumped 10.7% last month compared to last year. Sales fell 2% from January. The drop in sales suggests potential home buyers are now staying away from the market due to rising costs. The Federal Reserve hiking interest rates is another potential concern for buyers. I'm Lisa Taylor.
Russia's communications regulator has reportedly blocked Google News. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. California is eliminating out-of-pocket costs for abortion services. Jordan Christmas has more.
Governor Gavin Newsom signed Senate Bill 245 into law, called the Abortion Accessibility Act. The bill stops health plans and insurers from imposing a copay, a deductible, or any cost-sharing requirement for abortion or abortion-related services. Newsom signed the bill in a virtual ceremony yesterday and was joined by the Legislative Women's Caucus and representatives from reproductive rights and justice organizations.
A man is hurt after he was mauled by a tiger at a Florida attraction. It happened on Tuesday at Wooten's Everglades Airboat Tours, about 45 minutes southeast of Naples. The sheriff's office say a 50-year-old worker was attacked by the big cat as it was being fed by its caretaker. According to investigators, the worker was not authorized to enter the tiger's enclosure. Attorneys are calling out names in the ongoing legal action over Ohio's House Bill 6 scandal.
Following an order from a federal judge Tuesday, attorneys for shareholders who are suing First Energy say that it was then utility CEO Chuck Jones and lobbyist Michael Dowling who paid tens of millions of dollars in bribes to get House Bill 6 passed in 2019. Both men have denied any wrongdoing and they're not facing any criminal charges. Millions were given to the dark money group Generation Now, which prosecutors say was run by former State House Speaker Larry Householder. He's facing federal corruption charges. House Bill 6 was a $1 billion taxpayer bailout of a pair of nuclear power plants owned by First Energy. I'm Jack Crumley.
Students and staff at Mark Twain Elementary in Bettendorf, Iowa, are trying to solve a daily mystery. Someone's been leaving rubber ducks at the school every day since the beginning of the school year. Some have been harder to find than others, according to librarian Ellen Waldron-Smith, but they are coming every day. She tells KWQC-TV the school is now getting Easter eggs with duck-related puzzle pieces. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. Hiring heating up? Indeed's hiring platform makes it easy to attract, screen, and interview candidates all in one place. Sponsor a post and instantly receive a short list of quality candidates on Indeed, whose resumes match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Mass Mutual knows retirement can be an uncomfortable conversation.
Who's the big boy?
You are.
Who's going to take care of us when we retire?
It's gonna be you.
You're going to make sure we don't end up in a retirement home.
Or if we do, it's a really nice one.
With tango lessons.
And bocce ball.
And a community pool. Oh.
Talk to us about retirement today. Feel comfortable about tomorrow. Mass Mutual.
Your favorite radio station. Yeah, this one right here. And thousands more just like it are streaming on the free iHeartRadio app. And now you can talk to them with a single tap. Play any iHeartRadio station and tap the talkback mic on the screen to send your message in seconds. Ooh, and it's True Crime Week. Check our dangerously good lineup, including the new iHeart original podcast, What Happened to Sally Beale. Download the free iHeartRadio app today and discover music, radio, and podcasts you'll love.
iHeartRadio.
John, we can't keep putting this off.
Okay, I'll clean the gutters.
I'm talking about your dad.
Well, what can we do? He wants to stay in his house.
We can make his house safer.
You know he's a proud guy. He's not going to take all our fussing lying down.
That's the idea.
For older people, falling and breaking a hip can be devastating. For easy ways to make home safer, visit orthoinfo.org/falls. A message from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons and the Orthopedic Trauma Association.
If you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my friends.
For my community.
For everyone here. We all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies us. Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media outlets we're on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of conversation about that impending start of retail sales within New Mexico. Again, just to quash any confusion, recreational use still has been going on technically in New Mexico since 2021, started June 29th, according to a tweet I was finally able to dig up from New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham. Yeah, June 29th of last year is when recreational use started here, that adults 21 and older can possess a maximum of 2 ounces outside the home, no smoking in public, and can legally possess more than 2 ounces inside your home, but it must not be visible from a public place, and it was 12 plants at home without a permit. I think it's like 6 per person technically, but then 12 per household overall, so fully expect it would just be 12 if you don't grow more. I mean, my understanding is that it can be a little tricky to say exactly how many plants there are if you're not being careful about it. I mean, there's a reason it's called weed, that it kind of how it grows sometimes. Remember, I want to say in Illinois when I was back in college, there was a bit of a scandal because some people realized as they were mowing down the medians, because stuff grows in the medians up there, that there was a ton of pot plants that people had just like scattered seeds about and were coming back to collect after Mother Nature had done her thing. And so some tracking down of people like that was happening. So, I mean, you got to be careful with a lot of this here. Some of the comments coming in. Interesting. RJ saying soon half this town is going to need 50-pound ankle weights to keep them from floating away. Wonder how the checkpoints, tickets, and prisoner transport is going to work. I mean, there's a lot of implementation questions, but I guess as long as they have a sturdy roof, the buses should still be good. But who knows? Again, the unintended consequences are going to be significant coming out of this. But let's go back to those phone lines right now. Again, the number to call there, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Barbara on the west side here with us right now. Barbara, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely there. What's on your mind?
I just want to make a few comments today. You recall last week I called regarding the 6-month, $90 million contract that the government entered into with Endeavor to house Central Americans now? Well, at that time I asked the question, well, what are they going to do with the other 157 countries of illegal immigrants that are hitting our borders? Well, this week, Town Hall and Politico are reporting that back in August, and this is if you can believe the federal government, if you can believe anything Biden says, that back in August, they secretly had flights going back, taking back, repatriating back Haitians, Brazilians, Venezuelans. They were taken back to Colombia because we don't have any type of relationship with Moderno. And Central Americans, they were all sent back by air. So now the question is, what's going to happen with these flights? Because Central Americans were like 95,000 a month at our borders. Then we had Ecuadorians, 18,000 a month. So they're wondering what's going to happen now that Title 42 is gone with these flights, because that's why they were doing the flights under Title 42. So we have to question our Congresswoman's sincerity and her motivation for in-country asylum apps now. I'm wondering, is she finally realizing that we have 170,000 illegal immigrants heading towards our borders and is aware now that there's just absolutely no way that we can take care of them or house them. And if they are, they're not all just Central Americans, which is what this plan is that they have in place now to house under that contract, that $90 million contract, just to house Central Americans. So I guess they're going to keep sifting, in a sense, anybody else that isn't from Central America and continue the flights. But then do the flights become illegal under law? I don't know. But, this is an invasion that I think is what they're doing now, requesting this in-country asylum, is a bit late because they've been giving conflicting and insincere messages from the very beginning about our open and then closed borders and then open and closed borders. So we have a dilemma here at the border, and it's just going to get worse now that they're trying to get people to apply for asylum in their countries. I don't know that they have a solution to anything. They create chaos and conflict and unrest, and then they try and find a solution. This administration shows nothing about being proactive in how they're handling things. And it's sad for the American people, and it's sad for those coming into our country. It's sad for those trekking through Mexico. So I think our Congresswoman is a day late, a dollar short, and I don't know that they can minimize the damage they've done with their policies at this point in time.
I mean, yeah, the existing policies we've had in place. So to be fair, I'm aware of is that Title 42 is still technically in place, even if it seems to have gotten more porous here, and I expect it will continue to wane as, well, whatever this administration is going to do in response to it, because I don't think that they're going to be willing to say, okay, let's go back to the total pre-Trump era system, pre-Trump administration system. I don't think that would be what they do. I think they're still probably leaning pretty hard on Title 42 as the only semblance of a policy left until, I mean, even with the whole MPP, Migrant Protection Protocol, so-called Remain in Mexico policy being in place here. But I also do want to point out that, yeah, with that whole in-country processing, this is not a program being announced. This is a request being made to the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, to work with the Department of Homeland Security and USCIS on establishing that. So I think if you really want to talk about it as not being a day late and dollar short, I mean, we're not even on the bill yet because we're still not even putting this into place yet. This is a request for it. So this is the kind of thing that I personally have shouted on this program more than a couple of times about the idea of come up with a policy, please. And I mean, technically, this isn't even coming out of the administration. This is something being signed onto by 21 U.S. representatives, including Congresswoman Escobar here. So it's not even in place because, yeah, the idea of preventing that transit from coming, I mean, we've done interviews literally for years on that point, that this not being a favorable situation of having people showing up unannounced at the southern border and then having to deal with that. Not finding anyone reasonable. I mean, you can find any opinion you want on the internet these days. No reasonable person that I'm willing to actually speak to about it saying that, yes, this is a good thing and we should have more of it. No, it's absolutely not a good thing. So hopefully seeing this happen would be a good thing, but it's not even in place yet is the finer point to be made.
Well, and along together with that is they never have a plan to implement a policy to reach their goal. It's like shoot from the hip every time something happens, and let's see if maybe this time we're lucky. I mean, it's just like Biden. What is he saying now? We can be energy independent. We can do this after he destroyed the oil industry, the oil and gas industry. Now he wants, we can do this. Well, we were doing it. Just the hypocrisy of all of them, the incompetence of him and those that he has in the White House right now is just, I don't know, beyond belief. No wonder who were the leaders that wouldn't accept his call? The UAE and the Saudis? No surprise why. Anyway, that's what I was going to comment on today regarding another fiasco at the White House and our Congresswoman. Like I said, a day late and a dollar short. Or should I say a year and a half late and billions of dollars short.
Yeah, that's a bit closer to it in my mind. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see how this goes. I would love to see this program implemented here. I would love to have seen it brought up at the start of this administration, because whether or not the administration will even accept this here is a question I haven't seen answered yet. I mean, this letter being sent out a little bit earlier this week from them, whether or not there's actually a response to it, how they will move with it is, well, absolutely important to me here. So would love to see what the administration's response to this policy projection will be. We'll see how that comes out here. So appreciate
Escobar can at least say at a debate, I tried.
The amount of politicians who can say, well, we tried, but we didn't do anything. That's another gripe I have a lot of times here. So appreciate the point in the call. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Andrew.
Absolutely here. Let's get to another quick one before we hit that next break here. I think we got the time here. Again, the number to call 915-544-5876-544-KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeast on the line here with us right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I find Barbara hypocritical. She didn't bitch and moan for the 4 years that Trump was in office and failed to fulfill his promise of rounding up the 11 million illegals working in this country. Had he done this situation would have been less, of a problem because we didn't have 11 million people that he got out. Good for the New Mexico governor and their legislature. Smart move, unlike stupid and hypocritical Republicans in Texas. Pot prohibition has proved to be a dismal failure. The idea of criminalizing the use of a plant that turned out to be a miracle drug was crazy. It's also, I see it as a constitutional violation of the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness language within the Constitution. Life, it turned out that medical pot is good for many ailments. Liberty, get the government off my back. Prohibition creates a police state and big government by definition. How about that my body, my choice that we like to hear from the right? Pot prohibition shows conservatives and Republicans to be hypocrites. They don't want anybody having a good time, but tobacco and alcohol, which are more harmful, they're okay. And so it brings up the whole issue, Andrew, of capitalism and government. It seems like anything goes if the government allows it, like slavery, child labor, unsafe food and drugs. And if the government doesn't allow products and services with high demand, like drugs and sex, then what do you get? Black markets where anybody can get whatever they want if they're willing to pay the price. So it does show the arbitrary nature of government and politically motivated laws and policies. And it shows the hypocrisy of capitalism and government when you had such things as the founding of this country along with slavery, and then tobacco, which is a poison, but it's all right. It kills a lot of people, but it's my body, my choice, my freedom. And I'll end up with a personal story. I grew up with a kid that was the son of very, very wealthy people. Bankers, ranchers, entrepreneurs, wholesalers. And he went into the drug business when we were in college. And I remember telling him that he was crazy to do so because, first of all, he was a trust fund kid. Why was he doing it, And on top of the fact that, he might get busted and embarrass his very, very prominent family. Well, he did it and he made a ton of money and he and his partners at Texas Tech made tons of money. But his buddies, who were middle-class kids, they got out of the business when they graduated and took their monies and educations and started businesses. He kept in the business and eventually got busted. And he told me later on, well, a lot of these fortunes of families, well-known families of the past, there was some skullduggery going on there too. And in a way, he was just before his time, if you think about it.
I mean, sure, there's a lot of implications that come with the way drug policy has been dealt with in this country. I mean, if you want to go back to the roots of it, there's some idea that the people involved with paper, textiles, and even alcohol were very much in favor of the prohibition that was then implemented. I mean, again, the local story that I remember, the headline of the idea that just the first sentence that if I recall correctly off the top of my head, marijuana, that insidious Mexican herb that drives its users to crave murder, I believe is how it was described in a just after the turn of century story here in the El Paso newspapers of the time here. I mean, there's a lot of implications that come with how drug policy has been implemented, enforced in this country. But, I mean, there's also a point to be made that there are still dry counties even here in Texas. So it's not exactly a blank slate for everything you want here. And I think a finer point to be made is that there's a difference between legality and morality. And that's not often, frankly, that the two intersect that much here. So just because something is legal and legally allowable beyond that does not necessarily mean that it is right or ethical. There's plenty of things that I think most people would agree on are pretty scumbag kind of territory and tactics that are perfectly legal under the law, and it may take some review of it to happen here. So just because it's legal doesn't mean that it is necessarily an actually good thing for anyone to participate in or to do. But, well, there's more of that logic that comes across here. Again, the idea of liberty and being able to make your own choices is persuasive, but you got to look at also, none of these things happen in a vacuum. Because if you're just saying, oh, well, we'll let everything happen here and there will be no consequence for anyone doing anything that they want to by themselves, you end up with some pretty bad problems in the long run here. But tell you what, we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of the break, we'll talk about this issue further and take more calls on the line. Again, the number to call there is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
We got two crashes on the I-10 westbound, close to each other. One right after Airway exit, the other further west, closer to Buffalo Soldier. Large delay with a backup as far back as McRae. Another crash on the Gateway West on-ramp to the I-10 westbound right after Paisano. And the left lane's blocked, I-10 westbound at Reynolds due to an accident there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Dell Technologies.
Dell's semi-annual sale delivers unmatched productivity in play. Right now, save what Dell employees save with 17% off XPS and select Alienware computers powered by Intel Core processors. Visit Dell.com/semi-annual sale or call 800-BY-DELL. That's 800-BY-DELL.
Congrats to all the winners from the iHeartRadio Music Awards. Because of everyone who got vaccinated, we were able to celebrate our favorite artists together, live.
Shout out to all who got vaccinated and gotten their kids vaccinated.
So events like this are safer and just more enjoyable for all.
Missed it? Check out the Red Carpet Live, presented by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services on iHeartRadio's Facebook and YouTube channel.
Thank you so much.
Get vaccinated, get boosted, and find vaccines near you at Vaccines.
Hey, Mario and Courtney here. We know life is better together.
And Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to make life's moments amazing.
It's red carpet season. Smart Mouth's 24-hour power of fresh breath lets us know we won't be worried about bad breath.
So go to smartmouth.com/radio to save 20% or find it at your favorite store.
Remember, our favorite tip for up-close, better together moments starts with Smart Mouth at smartmouth.com/radio.
Just 2 rinses a day give you 24 hours of confidence.
I need 4 more of the biscuit carnitas, 2 burnt end platters, 3.
The kitchen at Kai's Barbecue is firing on all cylinders.
Greg, help me bring these to the pickup counter.
He needs food runners who can hit the ground quickly.
86 on the chicken and we're short-staffed. Let's pick it up.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Instant Match instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Liberty Mutual Insurance Company presents and Doug.
Check it out, Limu, a roadside carnival.
Step right up, folks. Test your strength. Come see the fire-breathing baby.
Let's fan out and tell people that Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Look! An emu wearing sunglasses!
Limu, you're famous. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
The most current and comprehensive. Just minutes away at the top and bottom of the hour. And always online at KTSMradio.com. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the show. Of course, we've got the social media going on, facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Also, similar names under YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, or Andrew J. Polk on that one specifically. Find us in a lot of those outlets under either of those names, Talk El Paso, Andrew J. Polk. But also got that phone line open right now, 915-544-5876. 915-544 KTSM. Got to put the 915 on starter there. That's how the numbers work in this area right now. Some of the comments coming on right now. Kevin Williams saying, wasn't the my voting, my choice thing more of a leftist thing? I mean, it was, but then it kind of got a little bit muddied over the whole the time frame of the pandemic here. I mean, the idea of bodily autonomy is a kind of persuasive one for me as it comes to the general idea of liberty, that extreme circumstances and emergencies may, for a short time, necessitate certain decisions, but that otherwise you should have the right to make those decisions for yourself without duress or other things here. But, well, more conversation to have on that. Let's get to those phone lines again, 915-544-5876, the number to call. We do have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much. Just wanted to say a few things about this marijuana sale that is coming up next week.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we are impending on it, and the impacts are going to be undeniable in our area, even if exactly what it's going to look like is still a little bit up in the air as far as I can tell.
Well, first of all, I think the Anthony, Texas Police Department, they're going to definitely have to hire more officers.
Oh, probably. Yeah, right there on I-10. I mean, I focus on a lot of the Sunland Park area, living on the west side, but yeah, going straight into Las Cruces and all of them, probably going to have, well, an interesting time, to say the least.
Well, all you got to do is go up Main and Anthony, and then once you're one block north of Washington Street, you're in New Mexico. But anyway, there are consequences. If you get caught with marijuana in the state of Texas, first of all, less than 2 ounces can get you up to 6 months in jail. There are consequences when carrying a firearm also, because legally you are committing a crime. Okay, so and depending on the area that you are in, such as let's say a school ground campus, then the penalties are enhanced. Also, you can't live on university campus residential units.
Okay. I mean, yeah, well, that's even the state level consequences we haven't really got into, because I mentioned locally that, yes, El Paso police is doing the cite and release, but yeah, if you get pulled over by a state trooper, that's a whole different situation.
Yes, sir. Also, a conviction. Okay, a conviction in the state of Texas, any drug conviction can cost you your driver's license. You also cannot acquire a firearm.
Yep. Heck, even if you're technically a licensed user in the states that have, like, the licensing programs, medical cannabis, that is on that form that you're supposed to fill out, that ATF form, saying, are you a user of it? And if you check yes, technically that is a federal form, and you're not allowed to. And if you lie on that, well, then you're lying on a federal form and all the fun that comes with that.
True. You could also lose your professional license, teaching, i.e., pharmacy license, whatever professional license you have. Now, talking about the, driving under the influence, well, not having a test, well, if the police officer can articulate, in other words, describe the stop, and if you are not in control of your, rather, you don't have the normal use of your mental and physical faculties by reason of the introduction of a drug or a controlled substance or narcotic, then, yeah, he can take you in, they can get a search warrant and draw blood.
But see, the blood test almost is not going to be as useful here because, okay, so, I mean, the whole drawing blood for, actual drunk driving, that is a useful tool because blood also dissipates, the body processes it. But depending on body situations, even hair tests, which are one of the more concrete ways to show at least historic use and exposure, doesn't necessarily represent immediate impairment. This actually makes me wonder if the expansion of the body cameras we're looking at might be having an increased importance put on it when we're talking about El Paso police officers having to provide that as evidence in potential proceedings against people because they'll have it on, well, video. But I mean, the whole idea of that is then we're looking at more subjective reasoning as opposed to kind of concrete, yes, there is no smoking gun, so to speak, of yes, this is their blood alcohol level, this is their blood cannabis level. That doesn't exist to my understanding.
No, it's not a question of blood cannabis level. It's if you're not in control, normal control of your mental or physical faculty. Okay, that's one thing. Okay,
sure.
That's a reason to take you in. Now, if you do the blood test and you come out positive, let's say for marijuana or heroin or whatever it is, that's prima facie evidence. Okay, that this guy was under the influence. Okay, a lot of people think, DWI, if I'm under 0.08, no, it's not. Then if they say, well, under 0.08, no, I'm not drunk. Well, no, you may not be at legally at 0.08, but technically, if you're not in control of your mental and physical faculties, even like at 0.06, they can still take you in. And like I said, the blood test is just extra evidence against you.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying there. I just got to say that, I mean, having been on a couple of court trials involving impairment or relative impairment, the less kind of concrete things that you can point to and point a jury to more specifically, the more it becomes subjective and therefore more, well, open to interpretation and argumentation specifically. So, I mean, the blood test and just breathalyzers in general have made that pretty settled and pretty cut and dry if you're caught with a level or lower than. The problem here is that what I see coming up potentially with a, spate of cases coming out of this, again, we'll see what happens, but I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down that way, is it having to be then more subjective, more almost like, body mannerisms kind of analysis, having to come into it to then, show to a jury beyond a reasonable doubt that this person was impaired. And it creates a little bit of a gray area. We'll see how the courts respond to, but that'll be a little bit further down the road once we get past April 1st, I'm sure.
True. And also, like, other things. I would not invest in marijuana at all. It's just too risky.
Yeah.
And even, being involved, if you're involved in drug sales, illegal drug sales, or anything like that, there's just so many collateral consequences. Let's say you're some big time drug dealer or some medium level drug dealer. Well, the money that you get from that, let's say you invest in a house, a car, or other property. Well, the IRS or any law enforcement agency, if they can prove where you got the money from, well, there goes your property, there goes your truck, there goes your livelihood, everything. Even whatever money you have in the bank can be seized.
Again, I like talking about this because of the impact it's going to have in our area. This is not and I'm so excited to get involved. I'm going to stay smooth the hell away from all of this for the foreseeable future, unless circumstances significantly change. I don't have any plans to get involved in this, and that's kind of what I mean. If there are people excited out there, and you have more power to them. Hope it works out well for you, because I'm not going to be involved A, B, C, any number of the list of any of this situation besides just talking about it. That's my plan anyway.
Well, that's true, but I'll just to make a point to Raul, put it this way: I sure as hell don't want to ride in an aircraft knowing that the pilot has smoked marijuana in the past, or the bus driver that's taken a few puffs on a joint in a state where the possession or recreational use is legal. Forget it. Not me. I'm not getting on that bus, plane, or train.
Oh, absolutely not. And again, federal regulations still very, very much in effect there. And I don't think the FAA is going to be playing around with that, or hasn't been already here. But again, we'll see how it works out for our local area. And again, April 1st, mark it on your calendars, maybe stay off the roads that day.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I've never used the stuff, and I don't tend to start. Anyway, have a good evening.
No, I appreciate the point in the call. And yeah, not so much and you'll be impaired out there. I'm worried about the other people on the road. That's what I'm saying there. But again, we shall see here. One more quick call before we hit this next break. We have Jerry on the Northwest here. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew, for taking my call. Andrew, I grew up in that area they did that study in, and that study is kind of skewed. There were a lot of other things going on there besides just the recreational marijuana use in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
They had mining and natural gas development, which Raton and the Fairfax County Commission failed the people of that area. They called Halliburton a fly-by-night company. The National Halliburton. They called them a fly-by-night company. So that's one of the problems. The other problem, and I go up there often, the other problem I see is the crime increase. People of southern New Mexico, Las Cruces, buy safes for your guns, install security alarms, and get you some big dogs that like to bark at strangers. Okay? Because how do these people get their money to go out and buy? A lot of them don't even have jobs. They just go out and they move in like they moved into Trinidad, Pueblo, all that area up there, and they live under bridges.
Yeah.
They live under bridges. There's a walkway in Trinidad called the Purgatory Walkway along the Purgatory River. You cannot walk 5 feet without seeing a needle or something like that dealing with drugs. And the heroin epidemic and the crack epidemic has rose exponentially up there since 2013 when they legalized recreational use in Colorado. So people around the area, prepare yourself.
I mean,
because when they find out, the druggies up there find out that it's legal down here in the warm weather where it doesn't hardly get below 32 degrees in the winter, where are they going to move?
Yeah, there's something to be said for the dividends of vice and graft. Vice in this case, in some other cities, Las Vegas actually comes to mind here. In that case, there's a literal hole underground. Some of the tunnels underneath the major parts of the Vegas Strip that are otherwise intended for drainage and things like that. When they do get the rains, there's been whole documentaries that have been made about the city of people that essentially live down there, but are in that case out of sight, out of mind. And the implications out here, again, that's another reason I want to talk about this. I may sound a little bit gung-ho about it because, well, I'm excited to see what's going to happen and how we respond to it because I just love talking about the area. But I am concerned in equal measure in a lot of ways with if we're managing it right or if we're going to allow ourselves to be opened up to these problems, particularly on the El Paso side of things.
Yes, and one more thing, okay, the love of money is a root of all evil. So, if they're just looking for money, tax money to come in, there was other ways to do it that's not going to put in jeopardy their children and their grandchildren and the future of their grandchildren and children, because this is going to change the area dramatically. Thank you, Andrew.
No, absolutely. I mean, this is an important one to discuss here, and I'm sure there are opinions on all sides of this issue, pro, con, again, saying why the hell is this even happening? So we'll get into that further here. So I do appreciate the point and the call. We are well overdue for that break right now, blowing up the clock here right now, but we'll get to more of those calls and more points here on Talk El Paso. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. That number to call, more comments as well, but the number 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. The El Paso Children's Museum and Science Center was officially named La Nube today. That announcement was made this morning. The museum and center is a project by the El Paso Community Foundation and the city of El Paso. La Nube means the cloud. The museum's director says the museum's goal is to spark children's imagination. Standing 4 stories tall in downtown El Paso, the museum is expected to open early next year. The El Paso Fire Marshal says it was unable to determine what caused a fire that destroyed the Soto Hotel last month. That fire was examined and the evidence was inspected the night of the fire in downtown El Paso, but the cause was undetermined. The El Paso Fire Marshal says it has closed the case. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
El Paso fires on their way to a medical emergency. Gateway Boulevard northbound before Hercules. I-10 eastbound at East Lake, a stalled truck is blocking the right lane. Stay left there. I-10 westbound after Paisano. Crash on the Gateway West on-ramp to the 10 westbound is finally cleared off to the right. I-10 eastbound between Trans Mountain and Thorne. It's slow and go with 5 to 10 minute delays. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Severe Weather Center. This is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. I hope you enjoyed this last day of somewhat cooler weather because we're on tap for some pretty warm temperatures. High pressure will be the reason for that through the rest of this week and into the weekend, taking us to possible record warmth over the weekend before our next weather maker arrives to cool things down, bring more wind, and possibly some rain.
This report is sponsored by Allstate. Are you a safe driver? Are you looking to save money? With DriveWise from Allstate, the safer you drive, the more you can save. At Allstate, better protection costs a whole lot less. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today.
Hey, El Paso, this is Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. We've extended Ram truck months, and deals are even bigger and better with 0% interest, more for your trade, huge savings, and a huge selection of new and certified pre-owned vehicles with more arriving daily.
Buy now and get huge savings during Ram Truck Month at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Save thousands in interest with 0 APR for 72 months on the all-new 2022 Jeep Wagoneer, full-size SUV with third-row seating. 2022 Ram trucks with 0 APR for 72 months. 0 down, 0 payments for 90 days. Upside down on your trade? We want it. Even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, we've partnered with even more aggressive lenders with great rates and terms for good credit, or even if your credit is less than perfect. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying your truck is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso. El Paso Strong. Excludes factory rebate dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APRs, $13.89 per thousand finance. On select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
I love when my friends stop by, but to help keep my friends and my family safe, I always spray Lysol in my home before guests arrive and again after they leave. Nothing kills more viruses on more surfaces than Lysol disinfectant spray. Lysol, what it takes to protect. Use as directed.
Staples has your remote workspace covered with functional furniture and organizational items curated by Staples Work From Home Style Squad. This week, save up to $100 on select chairs. Offer ends 3/26, limit 2, in-store only. Explore solutions for your remote workspace at Staples. This report is sponsored by Staples Stores.
Kids dream big. Protect your child's dreams by keeping them healthy. If your son or daughter is age 11 or 12, the American Cancer Society recommends giving them the HPV vaccine to help prevent HPV cancers later. Learn more at cancer.org/dreambig.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am, of course, your host, Andrew J. Polk. A bunch of stuff we're talking about here today, but a lot of focus on the whole impending change to the, sales in New Mexico for recreational marijuana. Already been in place there, the recreational use here for some months now, but the sales coming online through the state law said as no later than April 1st. So, of course, we hit the latest possible deadline there. So that is coming up. And, of course, the impacts to be seen around the region are certainly up for debate here, and a lot of debate going on to it. And, of course, some phone calls on the line here on those points and more. If you want to call in, that number to do so on your own, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. John Brazelton saying that El Paso has had many more potent drugs in the city and the county for years. I don't think that El Paso will change very much because of New Mexico's desire for more tax money. Interesting analysis there. I guess there's a difference between desire and availability. I mean, how demand is created, something we've been talking about a little bit on this program and in general. RJ saying, give it a week, John, to see if a neighborhood takes on a fresh new aroma. I have a vivid memory. It's going to live with me as long as I do, probably, of being in college and just someone in the dormitory, still not quite sure who, but it came from one end of the hall, and you just heard the wave of people going, oh, my gosh, what is that down the hall? And eventually I was like, what's going on? Oh, yeah, there it is. Yep, I smell it because everyone had their doors open. And, it's distinctive. So also happened to visit the Haight-Ashbury district in San Francisco. Happened to be there on 420, wasn't planned, but there was definitely a certain amount of incense going around here. So familiar enough with it, probably, maybe. Yeah, I'm probably unqualified on any of that, but yeah, it's the impact's coming from it going to be probably significant. And we apparently had a little bit of a slowdown over on the social media. Their screen got a little bit blurry, and yes, I can certainly take my lumps or some of the questions and comments coming through there. I'd like to think I have a thick skin on most issues. Otherwise, I don't think I could do this kind of a program. But let's go back to the phone lines here. We do have James on the west side here with us right now. James, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Thanks for having me for a little bit.
Sure thing. What's on your mind?
Shout out to my homies. I don't know if they're listening, but James Ratcliffe, Lou Pinello, what up? Wanted to just have a moment and share some important local information with your audience and yourself about the El Paso City Ad Hoc Charter Committee.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm one of the people appointed to serve on this committee. It's a total of meetings, and we've already gone through 2 of the first ones. So tomorrow, from 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. will be, maybe sometimes it could stretch to 6 or something like that, but it generally it's 3:30 to 5:30 p.m. the second and fourth Thursday of the month. This committee is, something in line with the Texas legislature that calls for municipalities to do this every so often, that they appoint members of the community, each city councilman and the mayor appoints somebody, and we review the charter, and we also consider amendments to the charter proposed by city council, as well as additional charter amendments that the committee wants to consider. And so we're trying to get more people involved in this process. I think it's really important for these people who are part of your audience to just be aware. If they go to elpasotexas.gov, they'll see a screen. There's like a slideshow about different things going on, and one of the things is the ad hoc charter committee. So I wouldn't try to get the URL. It's something like elpasotexas.gov/ad hoc charter committee with hyphens in between.
Yeah, it gets a little messy, I would agree, yeah.
If you go to the website, you'll find the slide for it where you can get more information. But even then, it's a little bit cloudy on how to get involved. I just want your audience to know that, what we're discussing that was proposed by City Council can be found on that website, the proposed amendments or proposed topics of discussion. And then if they have ideas of what they want put in to amend the charter, I think I would just be comfortable saying, find me on Facebook, James R. Peinado, and send me a direct message, and we can talk a little bit more about whatever ideas members of your audience might have for the charter. But it's just really important to call in or show up in person. It's at El Paso City 1, where City Council traditionally meets. That's where this committee would be meeting every other Thursday. And it does, if people trying to make an impact, it's really difficult to really do anything about DC politics, or sometimes Austin is sometimes out of reach. But citizens can have a lot of impact, and your audience often, both on the, conventional left and the right, like Raul, what's his name, and Manny Hinojosa, I've heard a time or two express common ground on the corruption at City Council, or just the need to change things so that we're in a better position for the taxpayers. And
absolutely.
The city serves I remember a phone call from Manny Hinojosa following a phone call from Raul offering to get together and work on this. If those two folks are listening, by all means, reach out to me. Raul's got my email. Manny's got my contact information as well. But I'd love to see members of the community get involved. You can call into the meeting, or you can show up in person. If you want to get caught up on what we discussed last week, which was the first meeting 2 weeks ago, where we discussed some of the proposals, just go to YouTube and find the El Paso, Texas YouTube channel, and search for ad hoc charter committee meetings. And the second one that we had 2 weeks ago, March 10th, we got into some very important topics, like evaluating when would be should we continue voting municipal elections in November?
Right.
Or should we consider moving it back to May like it used to be? And that we should definitely consider moving it back to May, because our voters kind of get flooded with information about presidential and state politics, and municipal gets lost in the woodwork. But that's the issues that citizens can have the most impact on if they focus on it. But there were arguments for the other side as well. So whatever you guys in the audience think, these are important issues that you could weigh in on and hopefully make a difference.
Absolutely, there. And I think I just posted up the correct link here, because I think I found it under El Paso, Texas.gov/ad-hoc-charter-advisory-committee. It's a mouthful of a URL, but I think we got posted up over on the social media there right now. So yeah, seen some of these suggestions coming out of it here, and they already got the list of them up there. Of the review committee, the proposals here about page and a better part of 2 pages so far of just line items. So I'm sure there's a lot more to get to there. So appreciate the update, encouraging people to get involved. Absolutely. Yeah, we've been mentioning before some of them got started here. But so, yeah, people being able to be participating virtually is certainly a possibility here. Again, all the information should be up over on the website we just posted over on this video. And we'll also post up on the main social media as its own link as well.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing some of that. And I did get the URL wrong. I forgot advisory, but exactly. Yeah. Thank you for allowing me to share that.
No, absolutely. I think that's an important one here. So appreciate it. You have a good one.
Take care.
Absolutely. All right, we are well overdue for that next break, so we got to take that next break, squeeze in another call if we can coming out of it. But again, you're tuned into Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Your host, Andrew J. Polk. Again, more talk on this and talk about what else we got coming up for you after this break. Here with more News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound to the Mesa Street downtown exit. That's 19B. Watch for a stalled vehicle. It's blocking the left shoulder. Stay right. Gateway Boulevard, northbound before Hercules. A medical emergency with El Paso fire on the scene. I-10 eastbound at Eastlake. A stalled vehicle blocking the right lane there. Medical crew still working the scene of an injury accident on Vista del Sol at Bob Hope Drive. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Allstate. Are you a safe driver? Are you looking to save money? With DriveWise from Allstate, the safer you drive, the more you can save. At Allstate, better protection costs a whole lot less. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today.
Anyone can get long COVID, even Rob, age 22.
I got COVID in September of 2020, and a few weeks later, I started to have long-term problems. I used to run 5 to 6 miles a day. Now, when I walk up a flight of stairs, I'm gasping for air. It feels like my brain is clouded and I can't think straight.
Getting vaccinated against COVID-19 is the best way to prevent long COVID. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversations that you will actually use. With 14 languages and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel. Language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com.
Liberty Mutual Insurance Company presents and Doug.
Check it out, Limu. A roadside carnival.
Step right up, folks. Test your strength. Come see the fire-breathing baby.
Let's fan out and tell people that Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Look! An emu wearing sunglasses!
Limu, you're famous. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Your host, Andrew J. Polk, here, rounding the bend towards the end of this last segment of the second part of our hour here. A lot of stuff we talked about here today. Of course, we'll continue our discussion about all things that affect us here in the borderland. Some of the things we're working on for you, talking more about the whole disruptive employment environment we're looking at. I mean, the hashtag disrupt. What does it actually mean for people looking for employment, seeing stability in it? All of that coming up, plus more talk about the whole virtual border security proposals. What might that mean actually for us and other regions along the southern border here? So stay tuned for all of that here. We're going to squeeze in one more quick call here. Of course, want to remind about the pound 250 system. If you can't leave or get on to us on the line while we're on air, you can always leave one for us after the show. Pound 250, keyword Talk El Paso. We'll squeeze on one more here. Someone patiently waiting on the line here. We do have Ben on the east side here with us right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, the marijuana situation is very concerning, but something came up today that's even more concerning. Have you heard about the new rules for companies on climate risks proposed by the SEC?
Oh, yes, that has come across my feed here today about what the requirements are that if they aren't meeting certain targets, they could have Well, the penalties are a little undefined depending on some of the reporting, but all the way up to different fines, fees, or even governance policies needing to be imposed on them is what I've been seeing.
Yeah, companies would be required to disclose the greenhouse gases they produce and how climate risk affects their businesses. You're supposed to, all companies, public companies, would have to report on their climate risk, including the cost of moving away from fossil fuels. We're talking about more regulations on the fossil fuel industry, trying to maybe get rid of them for sure, and also about making it to where companies would go out of business because of the rules they have to follow.
I mean, it's definitely, I guess, okay, I'll put it two ways. I am not surprised that this is still, I mean, this has been a long-standing point for, well, this current administration, the policies that put them into place, Democrats in general. I guess I can't believe that they're still trying to push this in the midst of when we're looking at serious, literal, physical needs coming out of this. But again, I'm surprised, but not too surprised is the simple way to put it.
Well, I got to watch these people. I mean, if you take a look at would this be the definition of socialism or fascism? I think it's pretty a cross between both, and definitely not. And it's definitely going away from the idea of capitalism.
I mean, there actually is a phrase for it that's coming out here called eco-fascism, usually being applied to kind of more dystopian kind of situations. But, well, there's actually an old organization that you may have heard about if you listen to your history called the Pinkertons that are, well positioning themselves in order to deal with that. We might talk about that in future shows here. Otherwise, we're going to have to leave it there for today. I thank you for the point in the call. We are out of time here for this show. A whole lot more to discuss in future ones, but we'll have to leave it there. I want to thank everyone who did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. Y'all are really what helped make it what it is. We can't get to quite everything in every show, and that's why we do this every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. And, of course, there will be more coming up. Again, we got more topics, more interviews, more subjects coming up for you here, and a lot more comments, but we'll get to those in short order. Again, y'all have a safe one out there. Stay safe out on the look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, all. We will see you again here tomorrow with more topics and more Talk About El Paso. In the meantime, have a good one. See y'all tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound to the Mesa Street downtown exit. That's 19B. Watch for a stalled vehicle. It's blocking the left shoulder. Stay right. Gateway Boulevard, northbound before Hercules. A medical emergency with El Paso fire on the scene. I-10 eastbound at Eastlake. A stalled vehicle blocking the right lane there. Medical crew still working the scene of an injury accident on Vista del Sol at Bob Hope Drive. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Hey, El Paso, this is Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. We've extended Ram truck months, and deals are even bigger and better with 0% interest, more for your trade, huge savings, and a huge selection of new and certified pre-owned vehicles with more arriving daily.
Buy now and get huge savings